And for Off the Block, I'm Van Lopes, and we are now joined by Mount Olive as they are preparing for the Moulton National Match of the Week as they take on North Greenville. Kind of a huge weekend for Mount Olive as they are in first place, taking on both teams tied for second place. They got Belmont Abbey coming up on Friday, and then North Greenville coming up on Saturday. So, Coach, with that being said, let's just ask you the weekend as a whole. What do you guys have to do to come away with 2 victories this weekend?
I think one thing that we need to do that we haven't really done yet is play consistently back-to-back nights. We've had a couple tough weekends on the road, and one thing that we've been working on a lot this week and last week is just being consistent and playing the best we can and doing our jobs. So we are looking forward to a pretty big weekend.
And we're also joined by Jared Ferguson. So, Jared, I'd love to get your thoughts here. First time around against North Greenville, they were able to beat you. What did you take away from that match, and what's some of the adjustments that you're going to need to make from that match?
Yeah, I think we did a lot of learning from that game, not only like personally, but also as a team. Understanding how different teams play in different arenas, especially in their gym where the situation's different and there's just a lot of noise coming from their side. I think we hadn't, especially a couple of players on our team, hadn't been used to that. So this time around, it's good to obviously be at home. That's something that I know our team's excited for. But definitely just focusing for both games, Friday and Saturday, just watching their side of it important, but also just focusing on our game, focusing on our serve and pass, doing our jobs, playing our roles, and if we can do that, then I'm sure we can come away with a successful weekend.
Jared, I want to ask you, I feel like in your time at Mount Olive, you have played every single position with the exception of middle attacker. I think that's the one position you haven't played. This year, though, you've been primarily setting. So I want to ask, what was that conversation like? The offseason, say, hey, we want for you to do setting, and how you feel you've been doing, kind of embracing that role as a setter when you've been playing outside most of your career.
Yeah, I mean, it's been fun. Obviously, I got recruited as a setter and then turned into an outside my freshman year in the fall. And so, I guess coming back to setting now, it's kind of where I started and where I'm have the most fun. I feel like just running an offense, you can do so much with, especially with the hitters that I have. It makes my job really easy. Just putting the ball up for them and letting them have a go with it is the best thing. The conversation me and Coach had, I mean, we just talked about how wherever I play on the court, I'm doing my job, whether it's outside, setting, any other position that he might chuck me in. It's just doing my job really and making sure that we play good quality volleyball.
And Coach, want to just get your thoughts. How nice is it for you as a coach to have a player so versatile like Jared, where one day he can be playing outside and then the next day he's setting for you?
It's definitely a blessing to have a player like Jared, and I think us having a few different players that can play different positions is very beneficial for us, because we always say we don't really have a true starting lineup because we have so many pieces involved. So it's kind of just nice to have the versatility that we do.
Now, question for both you guys, especially late in, February, I think there was a stretch where you played about 6 matches or 5 matches in a span of 10 days. And since, March, you guys have had, last 2 weeks, you have had a little bit of bye week. How nice has that time off has been for you guys, especially going through such a rough gauntlet in late February?
I think it's been very nice, obviously, having the time off and letting the guys get to not only physically recover, but mentally too. It's kind of just, draining having the matches we did have, and, the wins and even some of the losses that we did have. It's just very mentally draining. So it was a good time for them to kind of just, press reset, and not only get rejuvenated as players, but also to catch up in school, because that's kind of one of the really big things that we always focus on is our team GPA. So it's been nice kind of having that break to, press the reset button.
Now, Jared, one of the interesting things this season with the Conference Carolinas is obviously the semifinals and finals are a set destination. So if you get the number 1 seed for the conference tournament, you won't necessarily be hosting. But with that being said, though, how important is it for this team to come away with 2 victories this weekend to get that number 1 seed going in the conference tournament?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's really important winning as many games as we can, especially this weekend, in terms of confidence as well, leading into the postseason. I think that getting the number 1 seed is obviously like an achievement, but as long as we're in that top 2 and we secure a semifinal and get a couple of games off in that postseason, I know the boys will be happy. But yeah, really we're trying to set ourselves apart from this conference and show the rest of the country that, yeah, our conference may be weak, but our team especially is ones that can compete with everyone else. So this weekend, I think we're just there to show everyone what we can really do when we play consistently.
And Coach, I want to ask you just kind of a follow-up. You look at Mount Olive historically, typically you guys are a top 3, top 1, top 2 program in the Conference Carolinas, but have just yet not been able to crack, win that conference championship, get that NCAA berth. Is that something that you guys talk about in terms of motivation, or is that, the subject that we don't want to broach? How do you handle that?
That's been a conversation we've had since my first day on campus. I think it's good for these players to understand that, like, I know what it's like to be there and I know what it takes to get there, because I was fortunate to play in the Final Four. And so, it's one thing that is always in the back of our minds, right? Like, if we can have the season that we know we can have, this is a very likely thing that can happen. And so just now in year 3, it's a lot of things are coming to fruition, and hopefully that's one of them that we get to accomplish in the next couple months.
Just a couple questions before we wrap up. Jared, I'd love to get your thoughts. Your connection with the middles has been so good this season. I think both of them are in the top 10 for attack percentage. Can you talk a little bit just about the connection that you have with the 2 brothers and why that seems to be so successful for you guys?
I think that, I guess, the connection we have on the court also correlates with our connection off the court. Like, we have such a good relationship, especially me, with them and being like friends and stuff. So I think when it comes to on the court, like, we're allowed to be so open with each other, and like I almost get a feel for like where they're going to be or where they want the ball. And once you put it up for them, they're good enough to put it away. They're very smart players. They know how to get around a block, and if a block's there, they know how to tool it. And I just think those 2 are really, really smart volleyball players, especially middle blockers. And yeah, our relationship just allows us to communicate really well, whether the set's not there or it is, and just getting a feel for their transition, I guess, when they're coming in.
One of the cool things we look at this team, it's the amount of diversity on it, players from around the country and the United States. And Jared, I just want to ask, for you as kind of one of the senior leaders, how do you make sure, to help bring all those players together and continue that tradition of, as you alluded to earlier, that family atmosphere when you have so many people from so many different backgrounds?
Yeah, that's honestly a common question we're asked. Like, how do you guys make it work with so many different cultures and, people being from all parts of the world? But honestly, it just works. I think that the culture we have here just brings everyone together, and everyone kind of buys into, obviously, our goals as a team, but also just like off the court. Like, we do most things together. Like, we'll eat in the caf together, we'll do classes, we study together. So that relationship that we have in the team just builds throughout the year, especially through the fall. So then once you get to season, you're all just one kind of group and family.
And going off that, then, because I'm sure you've learned a lot about your teammates, learned a lot about where they're from. Can you give us an example of something that have learned in your time at Mount Olive, about someone's culture, or just that, or that you didn't know when you arrived?
Yeah, for sure. I've learned a lot of things from my teammates, definitely. But I mean, one that just springs to mind, I guess, that I'd never had thought of before, Ayanu, Michael Abasidi, is a senior here, and he's from Nigeria. And one thing that I learned from talking to him a little bit was that at like family weddings and traditions, they wear these awesome kind of get-ups, these white traditional, you know, not uniforms, but like suit kind of things. And I just saw it on his phone one day, and I asked him about it, and he just told me a little bit about it and why they do it and the meanings behind it. And it was just very interesting because it was different to the way I was raised and how we do things in New Zealand. So it's just awesome to see the differences that we have.
And coach, I have this image in my head of you every offseason just transversing the globe, walking around to all these countries looking for volleyball players. So is that correct? Is that how you go about recruiting? Just nonstop travel, 10, 8 months of the year?
Oh, I wish that was the case. No, but unfortunate, just to get these athletes through kind of the companies they are working with and kind of the liaisons they're working with. And so that part kind of makes my job easy. It's just getting the emails and then from there making the connections and trying to find the best people that will fit our culture.
And final question, I'll give this to you, Jared. As the regular season starts coming to an end and you're one of the top teams, more and more people may have never seen Mount Olive volleyball are going to be tuning in to see, okay, who's this Conference Carolina team that's really good. So what should people know about your team that may be watching you guys for the first time this weekend?
I think that one thing they should just recognize is just our grit and our fight. Like we love to work for each other on the court. We love to work hard and show a bit of grit during games. So I think that that's one of the biggest things in our team. And then just playing and trying to play consistent volleyball at just a higher level.